Welcome back, everyone. The 2024 tax reform bills currently before the National Assembly for consideration and passage into law have generated unprecedented public debate over its contents, context, and comprehension. These debates revolve around how the bill will affect internal revenues generation, household livelihoods, businesses, job creation or job loss, potential economic opportunities, and the overall well-being of Nigerians once it becomes law. Chairman of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee, Taiwo Yedele, has stated that value-added tax is a consumption-based tax tied to where goods and services are used and not the residence of taxpayers and businesses. He explained that the VAT, unlike income tax, operates as a consumption-based levy, where revenue is tied to the location where goods and services are consumed, not where taxpayers reside or businesses are registered. Tonight, we continue to get more perspectives and more insight into this very controversial matter. And joining me on the program this evening is Senator Shehu Sani, author, playwright, human rights activist, and politician, for his own understanding of these bills and how we all can find a common ground. Senator, it is always a pleasure having you on Politics Tonight. Thank you so much for joining us again this evening. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. So let's start this conversation with your own understanding of these bills. Are the tax reform bills truly regressive or antithetical to people's aspirations, as some state governments have claimed?
Thank you again for having me in this program. Well, first of all, since the beginning of the debate and the discourse on this bill, there have been a lot of emotions and politics that surround the bill and its intent. What I did was to get copies of the bill and to know what is in the content as far as clause by clause is concerned. And there is nothing wrong. We are in a democracy. People have the right to express their opinion. And in fact, one can see that the interest shown by Nigerians as far as the views that are expressed, though for those in support and those opposed to the bill, shows the resilience of Nigeria's democracy and also the energy and interest people are putting when it comes to matters that concerns their life and their future. So there's nothing wrong with that. But the debate about the bill should have been about the bill itself. And from my own understanding, there are 4 bills before the National Assembly that has to do with tax reform. The first is the Nigerian Tax Bill. The second is the Nigerian Tax Administration Bill. And the third is Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill. And the fourth is the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill. So there are 4 bills. But the opinions being canvassed or been opined by, been submitted by so many people seems to be off the track as far as the content of those bills. And when politics is involved, and when politics is sprinkled on such a document, hardly will people go through it and know what is there. But for anyone who cares to go through the bill, and I believe every patriotic Nigerian should be able to do that, this is a bill for the first time in the history of our country that is transiting our archaic economy to a different and progressive future. And there are a lot of takeaways in this bill. But 2 issues have been canvassed, or 2 issues have been put forward to denigrate or to simply destroy this bill. The first is that the federal government wants to increase taxes. And the second is that there are sections of the country that will be impoverished by this bill. And in a society where people don't read, it is easy for people to simply absorb that. It's so simple. You don't need to read anything. Once you are told that And with that, you can simply pick a placard or pick a gun or a stick and say you'll fight this bill to the end. But look at the content of this bill. From the first to the fourth bill, it touches on all lives of Nigerians. In that bill, there is a provision that clearly gives more revenue to the subnational government, which is the state. And from what I have read, almost about the states will benefit from the VAT collection about 55%, and the local government will be benefit with about 35%, making it about 90%. In fact, the federal government, by this bill, is conceding resources or funds that could have accrued to it. That is one aspect of that bill. The second aspect of that bill, from what I have read, is that low-income earners will have some form of relief by the form of tax exemption. So who will oppose that? When you know the trouble, the problems, the challenges, those who are earning meager amount of money pass through when their own salaries and entitlements are being taxed heavily. We know that. That bill contains the element where small businesses are also insulated from taxes. And the bar was raised from 25 million to even 50 million, and even businesses that hovers around 250 million naira as their own value. Is there in that bill for anyone to read?
Absolutely.
That bill also has the content of simplifying and streamlining tax administration in this country. There is so much multiple taxes from local governments to states to federal government and all those things. And now you have the simplification of it for people to benefit. That bill also has the content of removing VAT on export, removing VAT on education, removing VAT on healthcare, removing VAT on things that are essential for the lives of our people. But people don't want to read that. The point is that the federal government is going to raise taxes and that a part of the country is going to be impoverished, and that has been sold to people, and people believe in it. Not just people. I have read it. Senators and governors are even afraid of coming out to say they are in support of that bill. Many prefer to avoid a debate that will defend and stand for that bill and discuss it and even explain it as it is. And many prefer to bury themselves in the sands. For example, I have seen a senator who never stood up on the floor of the Senate to oppose that bill, but he is on the media, local media in our own part of the country, speaking in local language for people to say no to it. Now, this is the politics around it. If you don't read the content of that bill, you will simply buy in to the submissions of those who simply want to marry it in politics. And this is what's happening. And it's unfortunate, too. I do watch people who come on TV to make submissions on that bill. And after picking one aspect of it, you find out that they virtually didn't read the whole content of what that bill is. I'm not a tax administrator. I'm not even interested in it. But because of the debate in the country and the emotions that it has generated, and now I pick interest. I say, let me go through and see what all these things are about. And unfortunately, if we allow this bill to go down, then the whole reform program of trying to reset and reconfigure Nigeria's economy to a prosperous future will be affected. A bill is a bill, and people who are elected into office, members of House of Reps and senators, are mandated by a constitution to stand up, study the bill, and give their own views and thoughts as far as the content is concerned. The bill, from my understanding, has passed through first reading, second reading, and there's an opportunity of public hearing where people can now come up and give their views. Elements of that bill that people feel strongly about can be debated and the spurious debate carries the day. But there is so much fear, and I can see timidity on the side of those in the position.
All right, Senator, please let me come in here. Having addressed the political sensitivity of the aggrieved, because before now, the conversation was strictly based on derivation formula and how uncomfortable or confused some of the stakeholders who are not happy were. But now, I hear there is some religious sensitivity attached to it. Is there any part of the bill that goes against Sharia law or Islamic belief?
Well, you see, we are a democracy, and whenever you bring in any form of bill, people have the right to go through it and see how that affects their lives. But for me, I am not aware of any aspect of that bill that touches on the religious sensitivity of anyone. But I was able to listen to a certain religious cleric who recorded a video and sent it to the public. And he emphasized in whipping up religious sentiment. My own thought is that as a scholar, you will take one of the bills, Nigerian tax bill, go clause by clause, and tell us how each and every of these clauses affects your own religion. Pick the second bill, which is Nigerian tax administration bill, and then also debate it intelligently, intellectually. Tell the people, this is how it affects your faith. Pick the third bill, which is the Nigerian tax revenue service bill. Let us know. And then the fourth bill on joint board, tell us how it is. But it is not. They simply pick one item and lace it and sprinkle it with a lot of sentiment, regional, sectional, religious, and then for people to buy. And by doing that, they were able to coward people who ought to have stand up and speak. And I have seen even some legislators who are changing their opinion when they seem to be intimidated by the mob. Don't accept it, don't embrace it, don't discuss it. And I don't know how people will be elected into office and they are afraid to speak. If you have fear of making your own opinion, you don't have the reason to be in that chamber, whether it's lower or upper chamber. You should be able to speak, you should be able to stand. We are in an atmosphere today, as far as this bill is concerned. If you want to be popular, oppose the bill. If you want to be visionary, you should support this bill, because the bill has content that will help energize and strengthen Nigeria's economy. We, as a nation, for the past 65 years of our political independence, have been a nation that is oil dependent. We depend on rents, we depend on royalties, we depend on taxes, and our tax laws are archaic. Why not sit down this time around, refashion our tax laws, and see how more revenue will be accrued to the states, so that our liquidity crisis, our economic crisis, the future of our country can be done. Now look at it very well. Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates are oil-rich nations, but they are looking ahead. Saudi Arabia is building a neon city. United Arab Emirates is thinking of a world after oil, and they are resetting their economy, reshaping it, so that the future will not catch them unprepared. But I thought this is what we should be doing at this very time. The oil we have, which we are depending on, mostly from Niger Delta, is not an inexhaustible natural resource. There will be a time to which you will not even have one drop. So why not use this time around and do the needful? But it appears there are lots of politics. But we're in a democratic era. People have the right. If I don't support this bill, I'll come on openly and support it. If I support it, I'll say, but my own is for those who refuse to take a position at a time when such a sensitive bill is before them, even people who are elected into office. So I have not seen, and I don't know, and I need to be convinced that there are elements of this bill that are affecting our own religion or whatever. I have seen debates and discussions on alcohol tax or whatever. From my own knowledge, I did sciences, and I know that as far as these alcohol manufacturing companies are concerned, they manufacture their products from grains. And from which part of the country do these grains come from? So if we have to look towards our future, we have to keep aside all these things here. But in order not to destroy this bill, in order not to completely extinguish the value of this bill as far as our future is concerned, the sensitive areas shall be debated. And I hope those who are elected into office, especially from the north, will be available on that very day to stand up and tell the world where they stand, and then pick up the points and then debate it and see how it is. So I believe this is...
All right, Senator, but do you also believe that the success of this consolidation depends on ensuring that key provisions from the repealed acts are not lost or diluted? Would you advocate for an effective management of the transition process and robust public awareness campaigns to prevent administrative confusion?
Well, you see, in a country like this, we live in a time of today where an impression is stronger than reality, because you can feed a wrong impression into the social media world, and people will believe, and when the reality comes, they will not. And when people are stronger than you and have more reach out in the media, they will control the narrative, they will control the discourse, and they will shape the discourse. If you have such a beautiful bill and you don't manage the area of its communication to the public, you are bound to be misunderstood. Look at 4 bills. All that you need to destroy it is to say that the government wants to add tax, or the government wants to appoint a consultant that will benefit, or Lagos State is going to benefit from this tax. But go through it and see. Those who will benefit from this bill are the subnationals, all the 36 states, including the Federal Capital Territory. In fact, left for Lagos, they will say that please keep this bill aside because they are also affected. The bill has simplified many things for Nigerians to see. As it is today, we know that if you are a customer of a bank in Kaduna or Katsina or Kano, of a bank, whatever you are being taxed, the bulk of it goes to the headquarters of that bank, which is mostly in Lagos. But this bill has simplified it that the states you reside will be the beneficiary of whatever transaction you're making. So where it is. But it is easy to destroy than to build. And it's easy
Senator, I asked that question because...
But they can't back it intellectually.
Absolutely. And I asked that question because the National Orientation Agency says it is translating the tax reform bills into 36 Nigerian languages to enhance public understanding and engagement with the proposed laws. So how far do you think this would go in addressing some of the contentious issues or douse tension?
Well, I wish them good luck, and I know very well at a time like this, one thing that needs to be done is to speak to the public and speak to the nation and do a lot of consultations and media outreach for people to understand and also to diffuse and dissolve the propaganda, the fake concoctions that are coming up as as a result of this bill. That is very important. But we can make the public, the government can make the public understand, the government can make the public at least know the other side of the story. But there are made-up minds who want to use this bill for their own political reasons, and those ones you cannot convince them. Like it has been said, it's easier to wake up a man who is sleeping than a man who pretends to be sleeping. So people who people in the upper echelon, the elites, who actually understand this bill, but decided upon themselves to misinform the public about the bill, well, they have the right to also do it. Democracy gives you that right. National orientation agencies should do a lot. There should be consultation with civil society. There should be town hall meeting organized by legislators from now to January before the public. The senators and members of House of Reps should be empowered to reach out to their constituency, organize town hall meetings and discuss with them and have no fear. And they should also be able to speak out, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that are being saddled with responsibility of leadership. They should know that nothing comes easy. And for the side of government, there is nowhere in the world where you attempt to reform an economy and you become popular. Reforms are not popular. It's the fruits of the reform that will retrieve your popularity and make you more acceptable. There have been reforms in Brazil, in Argentina, in Indonesia, in Singapore, in Malaysia, and as the reforms took,
all right, Senator,
the government
we need to take a break at this moment.
Yes.
We need to take a break at this moment, and when we return, we will continue this conversation. Please stay with us, everyone.
Happy birthday to a true pathfinder. Happy birthday to my good friend and elder brother, Governor Hope Uzodimma of Imo State. On behalf of the good people and government of Edo State, I wish you God's uncommon favor, protection, and good health. As chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, you have piloted the affairs of the body well, and I pray that God Almighty will continue to guide you. I wish you good health, more prosperous years on earth, and above all, may God give you the wisdom to continue to pilot the affairs of Imo State and continue to contribute your quota to the development of mankind and society in general. Happy birthday, Your Excellency. Signed, His Excellency Senator Monday Okwebolo, Executive Governor, Edo State.
Welcome back to Politics Tonight, everyone. Thank you very much for staying with us on the program. Senator Shehu Sani, author, playwright, human rights activist, and politician, is my guest tonight as we discuss the tax reform bills and other matters. Senator, thank you very much for staying with us on the program. So before we went on that break, you have said this recent uproar about the tax reform bills is a testament to the resilience of Nigeria's democracy. And interestingly also, Professor Taiwo Yedele, who is the chairman, Presidential Tax Reform Committee, says 90% of Nigerians support the tax reform bills. And evidently, a total support for the bill has been coming from different quarters. But related to my next question is a statement from the highly respected Bishop Kuka, hoping that the reform will end elite's financial recklessness. Do you think this pushback is as a result of how governors would be challenged to put on their thinking cap by investing in manpower, critical social and physical infrastructure in their various states?
Well, if you go through the statistics of this country, especially with the recent one being rolled out by the National Bureau of Statistics and other UN agencies, you can see the level of poverty, of despondency, and of the level of desperation as far as the economy, impact of the economy on lives of the people is concerned. And the economic reforms, particularly as it affects this tax bill, was on paper intended to address these problems, how Nigeria's economy can be revamped and how we can have a solid footing so that our people can have better lives. The submission by Father Kuka is in tandem with the thinking of so many people that any reform for which a certain section of the population who are benefiting from what is on the ground, there will certainly come resistance. And this resistance is not simply for patriotic reason, but for personal reason. Some people felt that what is about to be unfolded are things which will deny them some of the privileges they have been enjoying for so many years. The governors are the subnationals. Whatever policy of government that is unfolded, if you don't carry them along, it will be difficult for it to succeed. And for them to know that, as God has given them this opportunity of leadership, they cannot realize any goals, any policy, or any programs in office if they don't have the resources to do that. Like the removable subsidy now has, to a large extent, impoverished the life of so many people. But it has also gave resources to the coffers of the states. So it is for them to use such huge resources to better the lives of people, to also ensure that infrastructures are delivered to all parts of their state. Now, this reform bill also is another step to give more resources to them. And they should be seen to be in the front line of explaining to the public, of defending it, of organizing to speak to the public about all these things here. But there seems to be shying away from it out of the fear of the fact that the people's mind have been spoiled about this bill, and as such, they have the fear of being mobbed by the public or losing election. But any leader who has a vision for his country and who is determined to change the course of history should do things that is right for the people and right for the future of that country, and not just appease the interest of today or appease some entrenched interests who are parasitic to the system and who have also been benefiting, always been benefiting from the system as it is today. So the governors should be able to speak. And if they don't, and if this thing is reversed, they will be the ones to complain. Money will not come from heaven. It will come from what we do here. And what we refuse to do will be the result of governance at all levels.
And I ask because some states governors have recently said some states may not survive if the tax bills are passed. And Nigerians are saying the struggling or underperforming states should consider merging their resources and working collaboratively to identify strategies for long-term sustainability and growth. But Senator, are you confident that this committee that has just been set up can resolve these contentious issues?
You see, I have said it on several occasions. I sometimes wonder when people say we cannot survive when this is done, I can't survive when that is done. You see, in life, sometimes when you are pushed to independence, then that is at the time you're going to discover the hidden potentials, the hidden wealth, and the hidden greatness that has been laying docile in you. The northern part of the country is one of the most blessed part of Nigeria. It has arguably the territorial percentage of almost 65%. Out of the nation's 235 rivers, I think it has about 2/3 of it. There is no mineral resources in all parts of the world that you cannot find in northern part of Nigeria. Some countries depend on sugarcane. You can grow sugarcane in northern Nigeria. Some countries depend on corn. You can grow corn in northern part of Nigeria. Some countries depend on resources from Nasarawa State. You can get Kaduna, Niger, and everywhere. But we all have it in bulk. The population is there. The arable land is there. The livestock is there. You see, we have everything. But if God gives you gold and then you pick a plate looking for food, then the problem is not from God, it's from you. How can a region be so blessed with all these things here? And when an issue comes in, it will be the first to say, I will not leave. I cannot survive. I cannot take this because of that. The first to complain. My own point is that sometimes, whether for positive or negative reasons, if you are told to go your own way, you shall have no fear of independence, have no fear of autonomy. It is when you are starved, it's when you are pushed sometimes, that you discover how much you can achieve and how great you can be. Let us go back. The governors should look inwards. Stop building bridges where there is no water. Use the resources to resuscitate the industries in your state. Use the resources to exploit the mineral that is lying dormant in your state. Use the resources to build on agriculture. Use the resources to empower your people. That is what you do. You invest ahead. Saudi Arabia now is even investing in sports. Most of the players that are known to be in Europe stars, they have been attracted. So it's thinking ahead. The north, the southeastern part of Nigeria, the south, and whatever, she will think ahead. It's not just north that is landlocked. The southeast is also landlocked. We should be thinking of how we can stand our own, how we can. Sometimes your dignity, your integrity, your honor, your respect is dependent on your capacity and ability to stand on yourself and tell the world. Each time a person tells you go, you should go. You find greatness there, and that is how it's supposed. But to say, I cannot live if I am not given this, I cannot survive if I'm not given this, then you show how dependent, how parasitic, how subservient, and how your life is dependent on other persons. And I don't believe in that.
All right, Senator. Two more issues before we leave tonight. Let me take you up on other matters. And quite related to this is the role of leadership in fostering national integration. And your take on this is very important because of your immense role in the struggle for this democracy we enjoy today. You know that a country without national integration is often implied as a country deprived of social cohesion and sense of nationalism. Now, when this debate about these tax reform bills kicked off a few weeks ago, it looked like our unity as a people was almost questioned with how stakeholders reacted to it, which prompted the National Orientation Agency emphasizing that the controversial tax reform bills are not to oppress any region in the country. And before now, Mr. President has continued to encourage unity to move Nigeria forward. Two questions, Senator. What is the role of the political class in enhancing national cohesion and integration? And number two, how do we begin to work towards national cohesion by shunning ethnicity and religious polarization?
Well, you see, in an ethnically diverse country like ours, diversity should be used to build our country. United States is a multicultural nation. You can also see other multicultural nations that have progress in their lives. So we can use our diversity to build our country, to strengthen our country, and to match ourselves to posterity and prosperity. We can also use diversity to destroy ourselves. People in the position of authority have a duty and responsibility to ensure equity, justice, and fairness in the way they govern the country. That will unite the country, that will ensure that everyone have a sense of belonging in the country. When people win over political power, they should see themselves as servants, people who are elected to serve. They should not see themselves as conquerors or tribal lords who have won over a battle, and as such, it is members of their ethnic group that should be appointed into office and dominate. And it is what is happening now. Under Buhari regime, Northerners were all appointed left, right, and center. And under President Tinubu, some issues are being raised. But the point is that if you are going to hospital, you want the best doctor. You don't insist that it must come from someone must come from my own ethnic group. If you are traveling in a plane, you want the best pilot. You are not insisting that the pilot must be someone from your own ethnic group. So we are a nation that comes from a turbulent and stormy history, and we are still a developing nation. And whatever policy and programs of government we carry along, we execute. We should take cognizance of the attachment of our people to their cleavages, to their feudal areas, to their religion, to their culture. We should respect the sensitivity of those things, but we should not allow the nation to be weighed down by tribalism, sectionalism, and religious bigotry, as we have seen. The nations need to move forward. All those things have not been able to produce results in our country. We need people who are competent, who are capable, who can move this country forward. We have passed through all these stages here, and it has delivered us to nowhere.
All right.
Let us be equitable, let us be just, let's be fair. This is the message for those in position of office. That's the only thing that can unite a country, and not, like I've said, not national anthem, not the constitution, not flag, and nothing. Equity and justice. People in power must do it, and they must be seen to be doing it. And if you do it, the nation will be one. This is what happened in Super Eagles. Each time the Super Eagles is winning its matches, you see the nation all coming up together and cheering it. Nobody cares whether the 90% of those who are there are from a certain part of the country. So if the result is delivered and people can see it positively, they will appreciate. This nation needs to move forward, but we can't continue to be preaching national unity while in our conduct we do the opposite.
All right. Senator, are you convinced that no leader can fix this country with the 1999 Constitution?
You see, Nigeria will have a lot of problems, and there are issues we can solve in the National Assembly by constitutional amendment and by bills. And there are issues we cannot solve. There must be a fundamental change in our constitution. For example, you can't use a bill to dissolve the House of Reps and Senate and only make one parliament as people want it. It touches on the constitution. You can't dissolve the states, merge them, and create regional parliaments. It also touches on the constitution. So from 1999 to date, the constitution has been able to solve a lot of problems. But there are challenges and issues that has arisen over the years, for which can only be addressed if the constitution is addressed. So I am a member of the Committee of Patriots that are calling for a new constitution. But to me, I believe that the constitution is one of so many issues that we have in the country. And gracefully, when we meet the president, he said he is looking at the economy now, and he's going to look at that issue, which is also good. But for now, Nigerians need good governance. Nigerians need to see the fruits of these reforms. Nigerians need to see how governance can positively affect their life. I think this is what is immediately needed for now.
So, Senator, finally, your recent admonition to the 10th Assembly. You have advised the 10th National Assembly to preserve parliamentary independence. You're urging these set of lawmakers to carry themselves with dignity to preserve the independence and respect of the parliament. In your words, a compromised parliament portends ill will for the nation. You said during your time, it was unthinkable for heads of ministries, departments, and agencies to ignore your summons. They understood the gravity of the oversight functions. What necessitated that admonition?
You see, I was a member of the 8th Senate that was led by Dr. Bukola Saraki. And in the history of Nigeria's parliamentary journey, we have been able to defend the integrity, the sanctity, and the independence of the National Assembly by holding the executive to account. We never allowed ourselves to be rubber stamped. We never allowed ourselves to be dictated upon by the president. We never allowed ourselves to be played by the executive. You see, those who invented democracy created the National Assembly, created the executive arm, and also the judiciary. And the National Assembly is the only institution that can prevent the president from becoming a dictator. If you have a compliant National Assembly, if you have a submissive National Assembly, if you have a kowtowing National Assembly, you will simply have a dictatorship, because the president, the executive, will get away with everything he wants. People who are elected into national assemblies and members of House of Reps and senators are not there to be the boys and girls or women of the executive. They are there to perform oversight function, make laws for the good of the country, and defend democracy. And that is why I said those who go to the National Assembly and turn it into a rubber stamp are not doing good for the country.
Senator, is it not too early to think...
confrontation between us.
Senator, is it not too early to think that the 10th National Assembly is rubber stamped? I guess that's what you mean when you say the current assembly...
I didn't say the 10th National Assembly was a rubber stamp, but the 9th was a rubber stamp, what I said, yes. You can get me right on this. The 9th was rubber stamp, but the 10th is not... We have need to see whether they are rubber stamp. But whether they are moving towards that stamp or not, we are still watching. And if they are moving the stamp, we will say that they are. But it is too early to do that. But the bills they have been working on and they've been passing are progressive, and I commend them for that. But in our own time, there was so much confrontation. We are able to hold the executive to account, but the problems we face is that because of our frosty relationship with the executive, many bills were not signed. And it happened under the 9th Assembly with their rubber stamp ideology. But the ones here are trying to balance between the independence and also being able to work with the presidency, which is good to balance, and there's nothing wrong with that.
All right, then, because, you know, when the 10th Senate was inaugurated, one of the key items on the agenda was smooth legislative-executive relationship to foster development. My question would be, how well can this be pursued without becoming rank-a-day sycophants for the executive, just as you have put it?
Well, you see, if you go through the rules, the rule book in the National Assembly, if you're going to do your work as it's supposed to be, you will be able to protect, preserve the independence of the parliament. But if you now turn yourself into an automatic approval machine, whatever the president and executive brings before you, it is giving automatic approval when even people have not read it. I think you are not doing good to do it. But luckily, the person who is now the president of the country was once a senator, and he knows the implication of destroying the reputation of National Assembly. Because if anything is going to happen now, the first guardian of that democracy are the National Assembly. And if you destroy them, you are destroying democracy. So whatever the president approves should be tabled before in the chamber, should be debated, and should pass the normal parliamentary procedure. And if it is in the good of the country, they should approve it. And it is not in the interest of the country, it should be outrightly rejected without fear. That is what democracy is all about. Not everything they brought you just stamp and say, yes, yes, yes. That is not, to me, that is not how we did our own. Maybe that is why some of us are not back to the parliament. So maybe the nation needs yes men who will say yes, yes, yes. But that cannot be me. That cannot be us. That cannot be from men of conscience and conviction. If we do that, the country will go down the drain, and it's supposed not to be so.
All right, Senator, let's wrap up with this. Let's talk about the economy. Because in addressing issues around economic reforms and challenges we're currently facing as a nation, the president admitted that some of the reforms may have brought about economic hardship, but they are intended to create a stronger and better foundation for future growth. How will you advise the president to carry on in his efforts to make Nigeria better?
You see, I've said it earlier. There's nowhere in the world where a president will unfold a reform program and he will be called a sweetheart or a honey or an angel. He will face resistance, he will face attacks, he will face a lot of challenges to the point of even undermining his own political base and power. But once he remains focused and he has a goal and a target to achieve, he should simply move on. At the time when the fruit of these reforms are now self-evident, Nigerians will say that all the sacrifices they made is worthwhile. the president should go ahead with the reforms which he has started. In fact, if you come to power, you have two options. The first is to go along with how you inherited it in order for you to keep your popularity and to win the next election. The second is to take the hard road of breaking new grounds, reaching out to new territory, and entrenching the country in a sound economic foundation for this and the future generation, and that comes with a price. So I think the president should do that, but should also be mindful that we are a third world country, and as a developing nation, we have our own challenges. Whatever reforms, programs you have unfolded on the ground should take cognizance of the poor and the vulnerable in society and how their issues can be addressed, because the economy can only be beneficial to people when they survive. If everyone dies before the reform is over, then there will be no nation and there will be nobody to benefit from it. So he should be able to balance, but he should not deter. He should remain unwavered in achieving the ultimate goal of getting this country in the right direction.
All right. It's a good way to end this conversation tonight. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Senator Shehu Sani, author, playwright, human rights activist, and politician. Thank you so much for your time, sir. And thank you for your contribution to national issues. We sincerely appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching, everyone. That's a package tonight. I'll see you again tomorrow. Good night, everyone.